Hey there, art friends. It is your art teacher, Mrs. Schnick from Smith Fine Arts Academy, and I'm joined by...
Hi, I'm Sophia, 4th grade Miss Swenson's class.
You know what, Soph? I have been here for almost 2 years now, and I get asked a lot about how to draw our Bruin. You think we should do one today, or...?
We probably should.
We're going to do a how to draw video today, and it's going to be in the spirit or the style of Art for Kids Hub. Because we love their work. We hear their music a lot from the Technology Center, don't we?
A lot.
Yeah, it's super popular in our room. And so we actually are using inspiration today from a Bruin. This is our mascot that we drew. And we're going to do our best today to follow along and create it in the same way so that those of you watching at home could create one as well. Especially for those of you 4th graders that are participating in the yearbook cover design contest. I bet they're probably wondering why I chose Miss Sophia here to be my sidekick. And there's actually a few reasons. What did you just get elected to be?
4th grade president.
4th grade class president, so cool. Oh yeah, and you've starred in what productions?
Alice in Wonderland, The Implausible Clause, and Wizard of Oz.
Mind-blowing. And that's all these crazy local productions. She's also an amazing artist. Love having her in the art room here. And she even spoke on behalf, her and her mom, of the school when we wanted to change to a fine arts academy last year. So thanks again for doing that.
Oh, well, you're welcome. It's a great school to go to.
What is it that your teacher calls you?
Her spirit animal.
Her spirit animal. So what do you say? We want to get started?
Sure, let's go.
So normally in the Smith Fine Arts room, we start in pencils so that students can erase their mistakes if they have them. But that doesn't show up very well on video. So we will be starting in Sharpies for all of our lines and then upgrading later to Mr. Sketch markers to fill in with whatever color we choose. So Sophia and I are going to grab our Sharpies. Again, at home, you don't have to use a Sharpie. If you feel more comfortable starting with a pencil, that is A-okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a line that is kind of in the center, and I kind of like to draw with my finger first, and it's going to be about the width of 2 fingers. So I'm going to create a line, and it's going to be kind of an upside down U. Then we're going to create a line that's about the same length, and they're going to come down from that shape. So it's just going to simply come down, and again, it's about the same length as that bridge line that we created. Perfect. Then we're going to actually start the eyes of the Bruin. And the eyelids are what's in line with the bridge of his nose. So we're going to draw another upside down U about half the length of his bridge, and it's going to come out to the side. Bloop. You want to go ahead and do that? And I personally like to work symmetrically, so everything I do on one side, I like to go ahead and do on the other side. So I'm going to kind of mirror that. So pretending there's a line down the middle, I'm going to come over and create another upside down U on the other side. For some reason it kind of reminds me of a koala right now.
Reminds me of a dog.
Oh, dog, there we go.
Very cute dog.
So his eyelids, we're going to finish them up by creating another upside down U above it. And I don't want it terribly large. It's just going to kind of make like a crescent moon shape.
Toenail.
Ooh, toenail, there you go. And doing that on both sides. And then we'll go ahead and make his eyes. So we have another upside down U. This one's slightly smaller and below the eyelid. And like always, we copy it over. Soph was ready. She was ready to go over there. And we'll finish up kind of this football shape by creating a U that now creates the eye on both sides.
I feel like it's an old man.
And it kind of has that vibe until we color it in. I completely agree. And then we'll make some small circles inside the eyes to make the pupils. And since they end up black in our logo, or our mascot, we're going to go ahead and fill those in. Cool. Let's see. Oh, and then we have another eyelid, the one that goes underneath his eye. So this time we'll have an actual U shape that mirrors the eye. And working symmetrically. And same thing, we'll do another soft U underneath to finish that crescent moon.
I'm gonna make mine a tilted head bear.
Ooh, yeah. That'll be cool. Going rogue is great. So now that we have the eyes and the bridge of the nose, we're gonna finish up both the nose and the mouth. Just below this kind of lowercase n shape that we've created, we're gonna create an oval, and again, I like to draw it with my finger first, that goes right below it and about the same width. So if you'll watch me first, so a nice oval, there we go. So just below the bridge and about the same width. Beautiful. And we're both fighting a cold. Sorry, those of you at home. And then I like to go ahead, and he has this cute little U shape underneath that ultimately gets filled in. Inside the nose, let's create another kind of long upside down U. And if we do one underneath that, it'll kind of make another one of those eyelid crescent shapes. And while we're at it, if we fill in everything in the nose but that, it'll become a highlight. And sometimes when we're filling things up, I will kind of speed up the video so you don't have to watch us color it. And I can even hear Soph's crunch, 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 crunch. Okay. He's sort of starting to look bear-like.
Sort of. We're like an old man with a big nose.
Yes, old man with a big nose. I can already see a different personality in both of ours. I love it. Okay.
But he's long.
For the mouth, it's another one of those upside down U's. So it's almost like we're copying the one that was the highlight, and it goes below the nose. So I'm going to come down here and make a little boop, U.
Yeah,
And
it
if-
looks comfy.
No, he won't look so grumpy later. And then I think he's kind of serious, maybe not so grumpy. If we create a kind of U shape underneath it, and we fill that in, that'll kind of finish our mouth. And I like to make it flow a little better. So if I begin at this edge and I kind of trace to let it flow into, blend into that middle section, kind of makes it a little smoother. Beautiful. All right, so this part gets a little tricky because at this point, we're gonna start doing almost like we're creating bubble letters where we trace outside of a shape, and it doesn't have to be exact. So I'm gonna actually start, and I don't know if you wanna watch me first or follow along, totally up to you, Soph. I'm gonna start on the edge of the bridge of his nose, and I'm gonna simply draw down. And as I get towards his mouth, I kind of come towards the center and trace kind of the shape that the bottom of his mouth makes. And come all the way back up. Eudemus. And absolutely, she perfected her symmetry by coming back up to the top and coming down to meet it. Cool. All right, and then we have that same kind of feeling going along when we start to create the muzzle part of his face. So we've got pretty much all of the features of the face, but now we want to start to add some of that fur. So I'm going to start up above the bridge of his nose and create kind of a soft upside down U shape again. And then I'm going to do that tracing line. So I'm going to start at that edge here, and I'm going to carefully, kind of as if I'm tracing around the eye, but not touching it. And I'm going to flow down past the muzzle and kind of stop below where his mouth was. And he'll start to feel a little bit like E.T. We promise that it'll all come together. And we're going to copy that on the other side. Now, in the actual logo, in the actual Bruin mascot, it's not symmetrical for this, so it's kind of up to you if you want to get a little crazy. I think I'm going to add an extra little wavy line as I go. Very nice.
It's gonna be colored in, so I can do that.
Exactly. Yep, she remembers that the parts that we're working on right now are actually going to end up colored in. So it's okay if she makes some adjustments. I will definitely do that as I go along. Okay, so at this point, we're going to kind of work up from the top so that we can get some of the height of his fur and actually get to draw his ears. Because if we draw the ears right now, they'll be attached to his eyes, and that will look a little crazy. Okay, so from right above where that little line that we created that starts his fur, I'm gonna this time do a U. And I'm gonna just kind of let that come across as if it's making that tracing line again. We'll talk about that a lot. Kind of these pretend tracing lines that we're going around. I'm gonna mirror it on the other side. Ooh, we've got a little Beauty and the Beast going too. I feel like mine's got some beast going. And then we're gonna make it a much softer line at the top. So if you run out of space, like Soph's got a little shorter space than mine, that's okay. So when she creates the line that very softly traces over it, hers may be a little closer, and that's okay. Perfect. You got the right idea. Yes. So at this point, we can start to create our ears. So I'm going to kind of look about the same distance from my eyes to the edge of his fur line here. I'm going to make a dot outside of it. So I just kind of eyeballed that distance. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, since we do everything symmetrically for the most part.
For the most part.
For the most part, absolutely. And then we're actually going to connect from that flowing line that we created here and here, and we're going to create a half circle. And again, if you end up a little bit off your page, that's okay. So I'm going to just make a little half circle that connects my dots. I think I'm even going to turn my paper so I can feel a little more confident with my half circle. And then turn it back around. When we see the kind of inner line get traced, bloop, it's almost like a telephone. And I'm going to go ahead and do that to both sides. And ultimately, a second one happens in this mascot. And that part ends up being colorful. And they even have it go to a point in the original mascot. Perfect. Cool. Now, while we're kind of up on the top part of the bear, I'm thinking we'll focus a little bit quickly on his eyebrows. So his eyebrows are similar to those eyelids, but they go above that like ET shape. So it goes in this space above. We've got little U shapes that get filled in. Sniff, sniff. And again on the other side. And we can always add some like little stylistic things to make him look like he's got a little bit more fur happening. So now that we've got some of the stylistic lines, I think one of the more crucial parts is getting the shape of his face. And I talked earlier about liking, personally, kind of the rounder shape. So that's why I'm kind of drawing in my head about how wide his cheeks need to be. Because if I make them a little skinnier, I've got an example here. When I was doing some testing of how I wanted to describe this one kind of ended up a little skinnier, whereas this one, he's got a real short face. So I got him a little wider, and then they still ended up a little uneven. So hey, there's lots of variations of the Bruin as we're going along. Okay, so as we're working along the outside of the Bruin, we're working on kind of creating these feathery shapes. And the way that I get away with that is kind of starting at the ear. And again, I'm pretending I'm creating that circle shape, but I'm using a wave as I do it. So I'm gonna start with like a wavy line, and after a couple inches, I stop. Beautiful. And I'm gonna do one on the other side too, because I like to do everything symmetrically. So I'll make my wavy line and stop. And the reason I do that is then I'm able to make a soft line that's kind of drawing back towards the face, as if we were drawing, oh, I don't know, like a pine tree.
Are these parts being colored in?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, we will color in those edges, absolutely. And we could always make them thicker if we needed to. And so the same idea, I'm gonna move down another section, again, kind of keeping his face rounded. And then drawing back towards the face. Boop. Cool. And of course, it doesn't have to be perfectly symmetrical. Mine sure isn't. And then coming down again, I think we have room for a couple more. Do it on both sides. And coming back towards it. And then what I haven't done yet that I would like to do now is I'm gonna have a dot that goes below those lines we stopped at earlier. And this is my goal spot for my last line to connect to. So I'm gonna come in with my curvy line and plan to end at that dot. Yay! He's starting to look like a bear. Fabulous.
Mine's not.
Oh, stop it. It's going to be fabulous. And again, if we notice as we start to color in that she wishes she maybe had some whiter areas, that will be super easy to do because we're going to be using that thicker marker that will allow us to widen our lines. So not a problem. Okay, so this part gets a little interesting because we can be a little more free with our lines. So when we created this, like what I keep calling the ET shape that comes down and around, and we stopped it short of the bottom, this actually gets to continue all the way back up to the line that we left on its own, and it can go crazy. So like, for example, I'm gonna let it do some of that soft tracing as if it's drawing along this line, and I might add a couple occasional stylistic flares. So I just made a little line up and a line back
I
down.
don't even know I did that, but it's gonna match with the hairs.
Absolutely. You can just kind of let that dive in whenever you want to fix that and make it work for you. And so, yeah, so you're working up there. I'm going to kind of continue along the outside. You're welcome to join me. And I'm just going to kind of create some fun little shapes as I go. And it can kind of go in the middle since some of that will actually get colored in instead of just turned black. And she's working her way up all the way along the side. Love having creative students at Smith Fine Arts. So cool. And let's see, maybe I'll kind of make it come back once more. A little curl. And then I'll get colored in. I think I'm even going to make this part whiter. Cool, and she's going for it. She already knows what's going on the other side. I'm behind now. And remember, if you are watching along with us, you're welcome to follow along exactly, or, you know, feel free to kind of decide how you would like to create those lines. Because ultimately, these lines that we're creating are going to help us figure out what gets colored in black and what will stay a color. Okay. So at this point, we're going to actually start working with a wider black marker to fill in the parts that on the real mascot, so our reference picture we're using here, that actually becomes black. So we're going to speed it up a little bit, so feel free to pause the video if you need to. If you wanted to, you could absolutely leave your Bruin black and white like this. A lot of times on social media, that's how we will share the Bruin. But you're also more than welcome to color it in any way that you'd like.
I don't care if it's sloppy behind it. It's my goal.
Your
Just
goal
make
is sloppy?
crazy lines that look like bananas.
Thank you so much for drawing along with us today, and thank you to Sophia for being such a wonderful Bruin drawing sidekick. If you'd like to share your awesome drawing with us, use hashtag FineArtsAtSmith, and we can't wait to see it. Thanks again! Why is my brain turning to mush? This reference. We're going to be using this reference today. Do you want to start yours over?
I put it in the corner.
Do you want to do it on the middle?
Yeah, maybe. I don't think that'll work as a nose.
As I say, she's gonna be a giggle fest the whole time. We might as well start it fresh.